So with most of my clients, all of them, the most important tools that they can use is meditation. A man who does not meditate is a danger to society.
Oh my gosh,
Wow,
wow.
we're going to quote that. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
The women who are most dominant at work, who are the leaders at work, want to be with the most dominant men. Women never say what they mean. That's really my role. It's translating what women say but they don't mean, so that logical men can understand it and then the two can come together. So in each moment, when a woman disrespects you, you must bring it up. You have to correct her, you have to direct her, you have to get her into her feelings.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
All right, welcome back to the show. Today, we are joined by Sasha Fedorovsky, a men's relationship coach and the founder of the Mind-Heart Method. Get ready. We're going to explore how she says some successful men need to cultivate a strong leadership role within their intimate relationship to create a deeper and more fulfilling experience with their partner. Check out the show notes for more on Sasha and hit up mentalkingmindfulness.com to see what else we're up to. Will, great to see you, brother. And Sasha, thank you so much for coming on to join us today. We're excited about this conversation.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. And Will, I'll turn it over to you for any announcements.
We're going to do our like, I don't know what we're going to, our one breath grounding practice, our staple. That's it. It's our staple in our show, just to ground us and to ground you and to remind you that you can breathe. And when you can take deep breaths, it really makes a big difference. So exhale the breath all the way out. Maybe close your eyes if that's safe for you. Empty. And then try on the inhale. Take the biggest breath of your day so far. Inhale. A little bit more if you can. And a little bit more. Hold that breath. Easy for 3, 2, 1. And exhale out slowly. Amazing. All right. Well, we're happy you're all here. And Sasha, let's just jump right in. I read your PDF, right? And it's called 7 Reasons Her Desires and Affection Has Dried Up. And you say in this article, trust me when I say your wife, partner is secretly craving you to understand this topic and take a leadership role in the intimacy aspects of your relationship. I read that. I'm like, thank you for saying that. But like, why is this the case? And what are some of the major reasons why men fall short in this leadership role?
Yeah, so that's my free intimacy guide. I really want every man to read this. And that's probably the best line from it.
Yay!
A woman is never going to tell you this. And one of the things that I repeat over and over in my content and with my clients is women never say what they mean.
Yeah, I have that later in the notes too. I'm like, please explain that. Okay, but anyway, yes, okay.
That's really my role. It's translating what women say but they don't mean, so that logical men can understand it and then the two can come together. So your wife, your woman really wants you to take a leadership role in intimacy. Why? Because women have so many layers of conditioning to intimacy, particularly in America, right? So a lot of my clients are American. I'm assuming that's where you guys are from, unless...
I'm actually from South Africa, but I am living in the States.
Yeah, so a lot of my clients are American, and so America is one of these like very over-sexualized countries externally, but actually there's a lot of taboo around sexuality. And this is really the first generation of women who have had these free rights, but for, centuries, women's sexuality was really for men, for serving men, for the relationship, right? So there's so many layers going back generations of conditioning around intimacy. So that's why it's really the man's role. And because the man essentially, in some ways, requires intimacy more to connect with his heart than a woman. A woman needs to connect to her heart first. So it's really the man's role to inspire her into physical intimacy and to unlock that within a woman.
Interesting. I want to know how we're supposed to take anything you say seriously the rest of the show if you say women don't say what they mean. I mean, no, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I had recently had a therapist tell me that, let's see, what was it? Women need to relax to be intimate. and men need to be intimate to relax, which I thought was profound. It really kind of changed my way of viewing intimacy. But I want to. I've got a question that's tied to everything you teach. I mean, clearly that's why we're here, is to talk about that. But what's your take on women who might push back against this idea, right? Like, I'm sure there's going to be women who listen to this episode and they're like, you know what, Sasha's off her rocker. Like, I'm a strong leader. I want to be the leader at home. Specifically, like a lot of women who are strong leaders at work, and then they want to come home and continue to be strong leaders at home. What are your thoughts on that?
This is what men think, and this is what men have been lied to about, conditioned to believe, because I've never had one pushback from a woman. One, the women who are most dominant at work, who are the leaders at work, want to be with the most dominant men. Right? They want leadership because women are not designed for this masculine world. Women who are leaders in this world, who have their own business, who are in the corporate space, it's a masculine world that women are trying to fit into. It's decision-making overload for a woman, which raises her testosterone, which also increases her cortisol. So on what you said before around that therapist, women need to relax to have intimacy, men need to be relaxed. So when a woman's challenges and decision-making process is increased, it increases testosterone, which is, for men, it's the same. But for you guys, that hormone, it's your happy hormone. For women, it becomes your stress hormone, right? Have different effects in our biology. So the more decisions you can take away from a woman, right, obviously with the right to choose, the more relaxed she's going to be, and the more she's going to be balanced in her hormones and her feminine energy.
Interesting. I definitely would not have guessed that you've never had a woman push back against that. That's fascinating.
Because this is what women want, but they don't say. And often they don't even know that's what they want or they need, right? Because women go on a 28-day cycle, so their hormones fluctuate. And, as I said before, they're trying to fit into a masculine world. So everything is kind of out of whack, right? And that's why when it even comes to talking and saying it to a man, everything gets stifled, because women are actually naturally and biologically designed to submit to a man. That's the way we're designed, right?
Interesting. I'm really going to be interested to see what the comments are with that statement. Wow.
Well,
So I just got one thing.
No, go
Will.
for it. Yeah.
So, and it's tied to that.
And I have something too, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, please.
Mhm.
So, I heard you. So we got introduced by RJ Singh. He's a good friend of mine. I'm actually going to see him next month when I'm in Australia. That's will be the first time we've actually met in
Oh, well, that's
person.
cool.
So RJ runs another podcast called the Ultra Growth Podcast. And on that, I heard you say a lot of men lead at work or the breadwinner, but then when they come home, they feel they can slack off at home. One, is that a justified mindset? And then two, what is the initial mindset shift you guide men towards to enhance their leadership role at home?
So I work with a lot of leaders, very masculine men out in the world, CEOs, working mining, military, law enforcement, business. So they're leaders out in the world. They're men's men. However, what's gone wrong or what's gone out of balance, as I like to say, your relationship is never broken, it's just out of balance, is that when they come home, they become passive. The wife is taking the reins, she's leading, or it's kind of becoming more of a partnership. Partnership doesn't work in male female heterosexual relationships. So it's not because he's in his natural energy, it's because of stress. So like that comment you mentioned, John, at the start, a man needs to be relaxed in order to, or a man
needs to be intimate to be relaxed.
Yeah, to be relaxed, right? But what happens, it's not his natural way to not lead at home. It's just the stress of the world has got him passive. He's too much in his head and he's not in his natural instincts, right? So the woman takes the reins and she starts to take control. She starts to take on the masculine role at home. And this is where the lack of attraction starts to happen, the conflict, the friction, the negative tension as opposed to positive tension occurs, right? And it's very common now because men are stressed. They're overly stressed. They're in their heads. They're not in their instincts. And they also are getting this information from the media or society that that's what a woman wants. She wants sensitivity. She wants all these types of things. But it's creating a big issue in our society.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Will.
Well, you mentioned about, so where is the balance between sensitivity and vulnerability and like, holding space for a woman and her emotions, but also, being empathetic, but not like coming off as like, I don't know, like a woman or something, like, you know what I mean? So where, like, help us navigate this terrain. I mean, because we have this emotional life, but like, and women have their emotional life. You guys are definitely more in touch with your emotions than we are, but it's not like we ignore ours. It's just like, it's the feminine and the masculine and the dynamic between them that is that why you're here. Like, you're helping us understand this dance that we're always in, but also we want to be obviously a great leader of the dance that we have with our feminine. So I know I'm going off on this, but help us get that the sensitivity and the vulnerability and how that ties in leadership.
Great
So
question, because the ingredients are right, but the order or the way they're put together are wrong. Okay. And they're confusing. So essentially, I teach men to connect with their natural instincts. Every man knows how to lead a woman, every man knows what he wants and how to lead her into intimacy and how to lead her in life. But usually he's cut off from those masculine instincts because he's living in his mind, right? He's not living in a physical world anymore. He's in his head because of stress. So, what's needed is for his instincts to be online, his spine, right? His masculine energy, his heart, right? This is when he's leading from love, right? So, when he's in his instincts, you're not cut off from your feelings. You feel your own feelings. You feel what feels disrespectful from a woman or feels unsafe, but then you're connected to your heart. So, you're leading from love, from empathy, right? And you also filter it through your mind. So you're not a caveman, right? But most men are simply cut off from their lower body, their instincts. They're cut off from their hearts. So there's no real love. It's numb. It's just their mind. Okay. So all those need to be connected and online, right? But if a man is just in his heart, he will just vomit his emotions because there's no container and there's no side to actually lead a woman, right? And women feel repulsed when a man is simply, offloading his emotions because she can't hold that. And usually when men think that they're being sharing their feelings or their emotions, they're not. They're speaking to a woman in a logical way, just sharing kind of like AI, your jibber jabber content. And so everyone's confused. Everyone's confused. So essentially, what a woman needs is she needs to feel her feelings and emotions, and a man needs to be able to hold them without being triggered or reactive. If you can get that dynamic right in your relationship, you're not going to have any problems.
can you give us an example of that? Like, that might be helpful, bring it in. Yeah.
So I work with the man because the man's the natural leader. This is not like an ideology or an agenda. It's just on a biological level. A man has a larger nervous system. Okay, this is you see this in silverback gorillas. It's through hormones that we actually communicate, not through words or through any of this type of stuff. So what I teach men to do in order to hold a woman's emotions, it sounds simple, just get her to share her emotions and you know listen to her, right? Or just let her speak. But in order to do that, the man needs to not be triggered. He needs to release his stress in his nervous system, because if his bandwidth in his nervous system is full of stress, anything she says will be triggering. He'll either be reactive like a teenager, so this means he'll be aggressive, right? Like defensive, start to argue with her, or he'll avoid. He'll numb out, he'll, become a workaholic, an alcoholic, because he doesn't have bandwidth, he doesn't have space. So part of this process is to give men tools to release their stress, to manage their emotions, and not to suppress them, and to understand themselves, right? To remember that they're the dominant species, that whatever a woman says, she's just releasing her emotions because that's the way she releases stress, through sharing, through communicating. Okay. Whereas a man releases his stress in a different way. It's not actually through communicating and vocalizing his emotions.
Would you say that men vocalizing their emotions to other men is maybe where it's important for them? Because I know that if I vocalize my emotions too often to my beautiful bride, then she can, like you said, kind of get overwhelmed,
Yes.
or see me in a different light. But I mean, where should men be vocalizing these emotions to have some type of outlet?
So there is an outlet. They're very, very simple tools, and I think you use some of them. Even with other men, not actually vocalizing emotions, sharing their thoughts, sharing their judgments. So thoughts, judgments is masculine energy. A man needs to process his emotions within himself. Once again, this is not an ideology, it's just biology, right? So, with most of my clients, all of them, the most important tools that they can use is meditation, which you guys do, which, I
Bingo. We
absolutely
we have
It's a
love.
a
win.
course coming up April
Yeah,
27th. Course,
that's a
sign
great
up,
time to
sign up.
plug it.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, thank you, Sasha. Anyway,
A man
yes.
who does not meditate is a danger to society. This is
Oh my
my,
gosh!
Wow,
Wow,
we're gonna quote
yeah.
that. That's awesome. But
absolutely.
wow, go further. Like, okay, we understand why, but tell our audience why they become a danger, or why they are a danger if they're not shifting and looking into the realm of meditation and practicing.
Meditation was always designed for men. The ancient yogis, it was not a female activity. It was designed. It's a mental discipline, right? So men need to have physical discipline, mental discipline, emotional discipline, and spiritual discipline. That's when you have a safe man. Any man who does not have 80% of that is not a safe man, right? So the next thing I give men, this is the second tool. Every man needs to do this. This is how he processes and releases his emotions. You'll never feel the need to really share your feelings anywhere once you have this processed. Okay. And that is journaling your negative emotions, putting them down on paper, releasing them, letting them go. Right. Once you do, and also releasing it physically. So if you have a punching bag, you're releasing it physically. That's it. When a guy does that and he knows how to feel and process his emotions, he's clean.
I got my punching gloves.
I'm gonna whip out my journal. Yeah, here we go.
We're living what you say. There's the journal. We've got the gloves. We got the meditation. I think Will and I might be safe men.
Yeah, I think we're safe men. Oh my God, Sasha, you just validated our podcast. Thank you so much.
That's
Okay,
it.
awesome. Keep flowing.
Also, working. So I'm a coach. I'm not a therapist, and the difference is therapy is about sharing feelings, moving them around, mixing them around. This is great for women or men who are in acute, trauma or stress for a short period. But if a man shares his feelings for too long to another person and doesn't solve the problem, so coaching, essentially, I give men an end result, which is to save their marriage in 90 days. We're working towards solving a problem. That's masculine. This boosts your testosterone and this makes you capable. If you're just sharing for the sake of sharing, drops your testosterone and makes you incapable, right? So this is why a lot of quite masculine men, right, will never share their feelings. It's not natural to their instincts, right? So there is a way that you can release your emotions and feel good and be capable, right? You get one ingredient wrong and it sort of, kills the whole process.
Well, I mean, like, sorry, John. I just want to make so. Help us define then how a man develops more emotional intelligence, right? Because one thing that we're seeing in our meditation course is men are waking up to their emotions. In part of this meditation course, we have a group learning environment in which we kind of talk about our experiences and the things that come up because we're sitting in meditation, being with ourselves, being in our masculine, and there's women that come to the course too. We're really able to experience these emotions, and then there's this what we've seen in the course. They're like, oh no, what do I do with it? Like, I'm a perfectionist. I've just realized I'm an asshole. Oh, I just realized I'm a control freak. I know they're not emotions, but they have an emotional current that drives, that experience. So help us understand EQ in the masculine, please.
Yeah, so I do have some tools and techniques that I teach men in my programs. They're a lot deeper. So I teach men instant EQ. It's really one of the only ways you're going to ever understand your wife. I'm not going to go into it here because it's quite complicated, but what I can, well, we all have, especially when you're living with a partner, we all know what the partner's thinking. We all have these sixth sense or these psychic abilities. This is essentially feeling the other person. All men have that. Men are actually very sensitive, right? Men are not insensitive in a lot of ways. They can feel their partner. But essentially, I think what you're asking me is once you start to, stretch this muscle, once you start to feel your feelings, once you start to see yourself, how do you actually overcome these things? And you don't want to navel gaze for too long. What you want to do is you want to start to bring these up and you want to face these fears in the world. So the way that a man faces his fears in 2025 and beyond, is not, fighting, not in the battlefield, all these things. This is actually not that scary for a lot of men. Where a man's greatest fear is in his intimate relationship with a woman, right? So in each moment when a woman disrespects you, you must bring it up. You have to correct her, you have to direct her, you have to get her into her feelings. This will feel most vulnerable for you and you must lead her, right? So this is the most vulnerable thing and that will be facing your fears. You may fear her emotional reaction when you direct her to do something. You may fear her emotional reaction when you create boundaries and you don't just try and please her so she doesn't, start the chaos. That's where you build emotional strength. This is what most men are lacking. They're lacking emotional strength. And that's essentially emotional intelligence. I don't like the word emotional intelligence because it says you're smart or you're not. It's an emotional muscle that you're building.
I feel uncomfortable. You said you may feel uncomfortable bringing this up to your partner, your spouse. I feel uncomfortable even hearing you're going to have to correct her if she disrespects you. Like, I'm like, and I'm sure that
Responsible. Tell me, because your audience will feel the same.
yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable. And you said something else that made me feel a little uncomfortable before when you said marriage is not a partnership. Like I do view marriage as a partnership, and I you know, I guess if I'm being disrespected, then yes, I would correct her, or I don't even like that term, correct. But I would have a conversation. I'm like, hey, that hurts my feelings. That no, okay, yeah, please help me out. This is I
Sasha
love it.
just boldly shook her head no as soon as John said that for our
those
listeners.
not watching, for those listening, Sasha shook her head that I'm wrong, and I love to hear it.
Because she doesn't believe you. Your background is in the army, military. Your voice is like vibrates my body. It's that deep. Your wife does not believe you that she can possibly hurt your feelings. It doesn't resonate. It's feminine because you have been conditioned to speak this way in order for a woman to not feel safe, right? Because you know your power, you know your masculine energy, and you don't want to scare a woman. You want to make her feel safe, but you've been given the wrong strategy to do it. So a woman, when people feel distrust, especially in this year, your president, people voted for him because they trust him, because he says how it is to some degree. He's not trying to be perfect, right? And also I have no political affiliation, but this is people sense bullshit, right? A woman is always sensing safety. Is it safe? And she's always going to test you until it's safe. So when you say you're hurting her feelings, something is off. If your feelings
or what she say, or what I'm saying, she's hurting my feelings.
Yeah, something is
Okay.
off. If she can hurt you, then how can you protect her? This is going to create a whole issue. So correcting her is the perfect thing to do because she's disrespected you. You're going to feel it in your gut. It's going to feel wrong, and you need to pull her up because otherwise there could be danger, right? And then this is really danger. This is how you keep her safe. When I say a relationship is not a partnership, yes, of course it is a partnership, but your wife cannot look at you. She can't look down at you. She can't look at you eye to eye. She needs to look up at you. This is the perfect dynamic. It's the boss and the secretary. It's the manager and the artist, the masculine and the feminine. Men and women are completely different biologically, hormonally, in all ways. We're not the same. We have different roles. Both roles are valid. Both roles need each other, but they're different, right? If you are having a relationship with a man, even a homosexual male relationship, there's a masculine and a feminine, right? It's always that way in nature. We need the yin and the yang. The tree, if it is too strong and if it's too dry, it'll snap. It needs a little bit of that flexibility. It needs both. So if you start to take on this feminine role in your relationship, because that's what society has told you, this is what women want, this is how you can keep her safe, it creates the lack of polarity, lack of attraction. Something is off. It cannot be a 50-50 dynamic. You have to have your roles, and you actually need to accentuate your roles the more that you live together, because you do become similar. It does feel like a partnership. But, if you want to be roommates, then, be my guest. If you want to have that excitement and that connection, which is what you and your wife both want, you must accentuate your roles. I mean, that's why she married you, not because you're the same as her, because you're different, right?
Yeah, and I kind of had to smirk when you said the boss and the secretary, because I was my wife's boss at one point. So you probably hitting the nail on the head.
And this is why those relationships often happen, or there's affairs, because there's a lot of polarity. It creates attraction. And usually this is a lot of the men that I work with. They say, the ones in law enforcement, they say, yeah, when I first met her, I was in uniform. This is the way that I was acting. Every man says, this is exactly how it was when we first met, right? It's in your instincts. It's natural for you to take the lead, to create safety. But when you start to live domestic life with children, the hormones drop, you start to take on these mixed roles, right? And that creates the frustration and the lack of attraction. You must have attraction in order to reduce conflict.
Yeah, I have in the notes. It's like, so what are some of the best ways to keep that attraction flowing in your relationship? Like, because yeah,
You need to create tension, positive tension. That thing that makes you nervous to correct your wife is going to create tension. Women like tension. That's why they watch those dramas. They they want the emotional highs and lows. So you must keep the tension in your relationship, in your house, tight like the strings of a guitar. That means sometimes you need to correct her. You need to direct her. She will feel what's happening here, but she will feel safe and excited within that. And then sometimes you bring her in and give her a kiss, or you direct her to give you a kiss and you give her a compliment, and that's going to feel so good for her, right? So you must keep the tension tight, but not the negative tension, the positive tension tight by accentuating your roles. You go more into your masculine, it will polarize her in her feminine. That will reduce any conflict. Men should not be arguing with women.
yeah. Well, can you actually? I know I keep going, John, but like, well, then define the masculine, then. You know what I mean, and the feminine. Like, we haven't really discussed that. So what? And you also mentioned, I wanted to say earlier, but like, how it comes together, the receptivity and the penetration. It's just like it's all there. So just define masculine and feminine for us, so we really get a better understanding of what we're talking about here.
So, look, everything is the same way as physical intimacy, right? That's our biology. Masculine is firm, it's structured, it's hard, it's goal orientated. It's it's
Yeah, so you're right.
men's
We're immature here.
No, that's okay. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I'm 14.
Hey, my mind went the same place.
Well, that's what you're speaking in terms of the penis. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Let's just say it, right?
Yeah.
But it's also here. It is like it's like kind of a metaphor to our biology, to our energy, to our relationship.
yeah. So it's the same. We're the same energetically, right? Our world isn't that complicated, right? Things are kind of how they look. Um, Ideas, mental energy, aggression as well. Women have aggression, but the feminine is creativity, chaos, emotion, softness, um, those energies. But it's not to say that, so the perfect balance is around for a man to be about 60, 70, maybe towards 80% masculine. A man needs feminine energy, right? So a lot of the men that I work with, their feminine energy is suppressed. So that's why they're in their mind. And then they're trying to use these words like feelings and stuff. A woman doesn't feel it. A woman needs to feel your feelings. They're just using these words and it's kind of, she's not feeling anything from you. So, and a woman needs to have masculine energy. You can probably feel for me, I have a level of masculine energy. I'm guiding men. I'm giving you information. So I'm using my masculine energy here. In a relationship, we're not going to have polarity. No matter how I look, a man's not going to feel attracted to me if I'm coaching him, leading him, directing him, and using his tone, right? So sometimes there's a time. Yeah, and sometimes we need to depolarize things, and sometimes we need to create that in a relationship. So if I'm out all day and I'm, you know, coaching men, guiding men in my relationship, I don't want to do any mental work. I don't want to make decisions. I want to be told what to do, right? And this is the same for every woman, right? She wants to have, you must take in her needs. That's why you need to know her feelings. You must be able to take in her feelings because that's going to tell you what she needs. And then you provide that for her. That's the balance.
I'm just imagining you in a relationship, and I'm curious how you take your coaching and bring it into a relationship and be guided and
I had
directed and led.
my way.
Yeah,
My life
yeah.
is complicated. I had
Uh,
learned my way. So that's what you will hate it when a woman ever tells you what to do. She nags you, even in a caring way. It's mothering.
mm,
Man doesn't want to feel mothered. He doesn't want to be nagged. He doesn't want to be told what to do. And anytime a woman does that to you, you need to bring it up straight away. Otherwise, that will be your life. You need to say, don't tell me what to do. Don't nag me. I've got it covered. But not in a frustrated teenager way. That's what usually happens.
yeah.
Emotion centered with a bit of humor. Don't tell me
All
why.
right, I'm going to try that, and I'm going to report back to you.
Yeah. We'll
how
do an
this
extra
how
little
this
video
worked.
on that. Be like, I mean, so like you kind of touched on it, but like if a woman, your partner is nagging you, like, what do? You put them in their. I mean,
You
I'm not gonna.
correct
I don't
her.
know.
You
Correct her.
correct
Okay.
her in an emotionally uncharged way. You can't be charged. That's where it feels like it's dangerous, right? You have to center yourself, right? That's why you need to be practicing the journaling, the meditation, and other tools. You must be neutral. So men forget, and I like this analogy as well because it's memorable, it's funny, it's cute. A woman is a little chihuahua. She's just yapping. Or a big bulldog or a gorilla. That's the size of a man and a woman. But men forget this. And they become afraid of that little chihuahua because it's got bite, right? It's got emotion. And that's what we have to remember. It has to become a little bit comical, a little bit funny because she doesn't tell you what to do. It's draining for her.
They become scared of that chihuahua until they don't, and then like you said, then they kind of unleash, and it's then it's scary, right? Then it's the and I've found that with children too, right? The children, they're clearly smaller than I am. I've got an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a soon-to-be 4-year-old, and even if I just raise my voice a little bit, they get intimidated. But I'm 6'2", 225 pounds. Well, actually, I'm less than that now, Will, because I'm losing weight. But I'm not a small guy, and I've got to continually put myself into my kids' eyes and be like, hey, I'm intimidating, or at least to them. We've got bigger guys out there that are more intimidating than I am. But anyhow, that's a different path to go down.
It's a very interesting note that you make. So after a while, when your kids live with you or your wife lives with you, even if you're a big guy and whatever you do in the world, if you are passive, if you're not emotionally strong, they will start to walk all over you. And that's where you feel you need to apply raise your voice, do all these things. A man doesn't actually have to do that. So your children and your woman will sense when you're in fear and they will push you because that's biology, because a man needs to be strong to protect and provide, right? So what you need to be doing in order to not have to enforce the discipline or any of that is to work on your fears, on overcoming your fears, because they're your reflection, they're your mirror, where you're not stepping into your true essence, your masculine energy, your leadership, when you're not overcoming your fears. And that's where they're going to push you, right? So they sense somebody who has no fear. And that's actually the most attractive thing for a woman, a man that wants nothing and that has no fear.
It has no fear, or is able to. So we've recently had an episode on fear.
Be
And
controlled by his fear, not be controlled.
okay, there we go. I like it. I
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Well, okay. So, work stress, right? Um, we carry a lot of what we have at work into our house, and then vice versa. How does a man know when the work stress, quote unquote, is actually a sign of something that's going wrong in his relationship?
Men love work stress. This is how my role initially started. It was a stress management program because I worked in a lot of male dominated industries. What I found is men didn't want to let go of their work stress. It was a good way to escape from their personal life because stress creates a certain level of adrenaline, right? It's high. Okay, so we need that chemical. So if you can't go and fire some guns or race some cars, you can create some stress at work, right? Stock market, all it's creates adrenaline, dopamine, all this stuff. So you can feel those more vulnerable emotions for a man, which is, sadness, powerlessness, all those things that come up at home with a woman with a problem you can't solve, right? So when you don't understand your home life, a man, when there's danger that he can't control, he suppresses. He goes into avoidance because that's the way what happened when you were hunters. Okay, you went to the battlefield, you're afraid, but you need to suppress your fear in order to go and get the job done. This is what's happening at home for men. Okay, and where can they throw themselves into work stress, right? So once you sort out your personal life, what's going on at home, actually your work life becomes a lot easier. You do less and you create more because all of that energy that's used to suppress is now available and open.
That's interesting because I know, the protecting and then the providing piece is so important to some men. I mean, including myself. I've been there, and I still fall prey to that. Defining yourself by how you provide, but it's counterintuitive that if you fix things at home, then your work life is actually going to get better and easier, and maybe you provide that much better, which in turn makes home life. So it's kind of this virtuous cycle. That's interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and you don't have to overcompensate for what you're not doing at home.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
The more so your relationship is your fuel for going out into the world and creating and producing. If you don't have that fuel, you're kind of driving with the handbrake on. And a lot of men can still do that. But imagine when you have that fuel, right? When everything's cleaned, like it's just easy. This world is created for men by men. So it's actually very simple for men once you clear out all that emotional clutter. And because it's actually the same energy center in our system that controls finances, creation, and relationships and sexuality. It's the same.
Sorry, well, I just got one question here that just entered my mind. So we're just talking about my son or kids anyway, and I have three, one of which is one of whom is a little boy. And you talk with RJ on his podcast again about kind of going through some type of rite of passage, or some type of thing where you have to mature into masculinity, an initiation. What are the long-term effects on a relationship when a man doesn't have a solid rite of passage or initiation into that mature masculinity?
I mean, we actually are having, just a side note, we're interviewing Wild at Heart author John Eldridge. I don't know if you read that book. Really great book. If you haven't, check it out, Sasha. But like he talks about this in the book specifically, that it's like it's a man that brings a boy into manhood. But yeah, please, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and this is half the problem with our world is men don't have initiation. So essentially, you've got grown men, grown up bodies, but they're still in their little boy and their teenager, and this is destructive. So, a teenage boy, well, some can, but going crazy can't have a relationship with a woman or a little boy. You either have a mum or, you become chaotic, right? So men need initiation because they need to build their mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual strength. They need to disconnect from the mother and from the father so they can step into that role. I've heard it said a few times, and I do agree with it, but a lot of men step into their manhood once their father passes away, right? Because then they are that role. Otherwise, there's always these cords and these ties. And this is usually what's in the way with a lot of um, the relationships that I deal with is there's still ties. Your relationship with your wife isn't just you and her. It's all your family ties. We all have these energetic cords connected, and that needs to be severed from the mother and the father so you can step into the masculine role, and you can disconnect from the mother, right? So you're not projecting all of your childhood stuff into your relationship, because that's essentially what causes the conflict. We are attracted to people who subconsciously will open up our wounds, will trigger us so that we can heal those wounds and become whole, right? But we need to start to see that our wounds, it's not the other person. The way we do that is we disconnect from our family, in a sense. And that's what initiation tribes always has been. We look at these tribes and it seems quite savage and quite brutal. However, what we're seeing right now, which most people don't see in relationships, it's savage, it's brutal. Australia is one of the biggest places for domestic violence. It's a huge issue. It's not spoken about. We have huge suicide rates. There is something wrong going on with men here. I don't want to say there's something wrong with men, but it's a real issue. I think it's not as intense in America, but
No,
it's a real issue.
it is. We have I think it's a 4-to-1 ratio between, masculine suicide versus, female suicide. And I mean, it is real. And a lot of what we're talking about here, like that initiation is missing in a lot of ways. Especially like, if you look at in the United States, the amount of single mothers that are raising boys. I mean, it's a real problem.
And I gotta applaud those single mothers for doing
Oh
what
my
they
God,
do.
absolutely. Yes.
But
Doing
I
the best
also
they
understand,
can.
oh my gosh, I can't even imagine being a single parent.
Especially with a boy.
Yeah.
Jesus. Like,
Children need both. And you can just say
Yeah.
she doesn't have a partner, but there needs to be a male figure there.
an uncle or, yeah, exactly.
And so you don't necessarily need the mother and father, but you need, that masculine figure, that feminine figure to create that balance, because that's what we're all needing within ourselves, that balance of masculine, feminine energy. And then we need it in our relationship and in our world. So essentially, initiation is all about overcoming fear, because that is the enemy of man and of woman. That's our enemy, is fear. So you will never find a person who's overcome their fear, that's living in their heart, that is going to hurt or cause havoc in the world, right? All the havoc we see, if you look at prisons, if you look at wars or things going on, right? Where is this coming from? It's coming from fear. It's a place of fear. It's in relationships. People still love each other when they divorce. The love never goes. It never dies. It's been buried by fears, right? And that creates disconnect. So initiation gets rid of that, so that we're not basically repeating our childhood trauma or childhood experience within our relationship, right? It's an adult and an adult having a relationship, not your 4-year-old and her 4-year-old, essentially.
Yeah. And we've also talked about, and this might be part of that this conversation here, is like transgenerational trauma, like bringing up, the masculine from the past that hasn't been satisfied, in the sense of been initiated and been brought into their full masculine potential. Yeah, I just want to go into vulnerability for a moment. Like one thing that we work with here, also like what we talk about is in our mission statement, like the vulnerability is power. How does that play out in a partnering relationship? But then also, what does vulnerability look like, out there for this healthy masculine? I almost want to say strong masculine. I almost want to. I almost don't even want to qualify the masculine. It's like the masculine in the sense of like being the man that you can be and you should be, and that's needed in the world and needed in the relationship. So vulnerability. What does it look like in an intimate relationship, but also as a leader in the community, with your friends, kind of thing? Like, how does this dance play out?
Yeah, vulnerability is really important, but vulnerability, I think people get confused what that should look like for a man, or what feels healthy for a man. It's actually being present. Most men are not present in their relationships. Present means you can stop and face what's in front of you. Most men are running from their relationships. They're in pornography, they're in their work, they're in alcohol. You know a single man that isn't into pornography, alcohol, workaholic, and actually providing, protecting, and there. No, men are constantly escaping through their mind or through some other means. It's not the man's fault. It's society, the pressure. It's a means to control people, right? We produce a lot of energy as a man and woman together from our heart. It produces a lot of energy. Powerful things can be created. A man is going to do a lot more to protect and to do things for his wife, his children, than just him alone. Societies have known this for generations. Bachelors are the most unproductive for society.
Oh, Will.
Oh, fuck, dude. I gotta get my shit together. Just got stunked on big time.
I love you, brother.
I know. I love you too.
And there's chaos. It's not to say if you're single right now, you're not productive, but if you're not interested in ever being in a relationship, being with a woman, having kids, it's likely what you're creating is from selfishness, and it's leaning towards pleasure, right? So when a man leads too much towards pleasure, for him, what he wants, he leans into his feminine. This is where men become dangerous, because when you put testosterone with estrogen, right, with these hormones, so when men, inject that, they can increase their female hormones. This actually creates aggression. It's not the masculine energy on its own, it's mixed with the feminine energy, with those hormones. That's the aggression, because women are emotional waves. Right? So vulnerability, yes, you need to be vulnerable enough to see what is going on inside you, to face it, to face things, to stand up, to do something, to go and create, to not just lean into your comfort, but be uncomfortable, to direct your woman to be with her feelings. That's vulnerable, right? And then go out in the world clean, not trying to project something, not trying to control because you have all this stuff that you're trying to not feel. That's vulnerable. Actually, just facing your own stuff, dealing with it, working with it, and then contributing. Because a man is here as a vessel to give. That's why women are attracted when a man doesn't want anything, because that's what you're here to do. You're here to give, right? You're here to give energy, to create. There's a natural sense of not enoughness in every man that you'll always be there. Why? Because he's not a life giver. That's what he's here to do, to create, to give, to build and produce around it, right? So it is, if you tell a man you're fine, you have everything, just be, you're going to have a society of lazy, dangerous men, right?
Yeah.
And there was an experiment like this. I think I shared it on RJ's.
The mice.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
They
This
started
is fascinating.
the male mice started fucking each other.
Oh my gosh.
Like literally, sorry. I know it's super crass, but that's what happened. Please explain this. Yeah.
I'll share with you another something else that happened. It happened in World War II. Maybe you know of it, but they needed men to fight in the war. There weren't enough men, and so what they did, they went to the mental institutions and they got men out of there. And these men were kind of catatonic. They were, they were put in these places for a reason. Once they were given a purpose and a mission, they were fine. Their psychology was fine. They weren't catatonic. They weren't, against the wall. They had a mission and a purpose, and it was a high adrenaline one. They're going to fight in war. The men need goal orientation. They need purpose. This is the happy hormone, right?
Yeah. Well, it activates the testosterone you said earlier, which is part of that happiness cocktail as well.
Yeah.
I really like the way, just side note quick, and then John, how you describe vulnerability as being present. And also the caveat is not hiding in your work, hiding in porn, hiding in alcohol, but really being present to what's going on here right now, and dealing with it. So whether that's like, whatever that is, that's a great way to describe vulnerability. Cause I feel that, I try to be present all the time, and but I'm also available to what's going on in the world around me, and how that's affecting my feelings, how that's triggering me or not triggering me, and dealing with those emotional circumstances.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Not vomiting them out everywhere and just creating more chaos, but because you're offloading. That feels good when you're just offloading that energy, but it actually weakens you as a man. So it's just dealing with that fear within yourself instead of avoiding it, right? That's really vulnerable for a man, right? It goes against your biology in a sense, right? To not just, but to actually bring it up, feel it, really feel it, and then deal with it and let it go.
Well, this is why the meditation is so incredibly powerful, because we get out of that reactive sympathetic nervous system mode and into the parasympathetic, into the rest and digest. So when circumstance does trigger us in some way, I definitely, I feel the rise inside of me, but then, we only have that little expand that gap of time between, what do they say, the Viktor Frankl, I forget his quote, but
if you inject a breath, something to the effect of that pause,
the pause
is
is
an
super
opportunity
key.
to breathe.
Yeah, the opportunity to breathe and get out of reactivity and and respond, whether that could be doing nothing. But yeah, thank you. This is wonderful.
I just want to jump in because we kind of cut you off with the mouse experiment.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could describe that we listened to on RJ's episode, and that was fascinating. If you could just go into that for our audience.
Well, they did a study where they put mice into this fake environment where they didn't have to go and hunt and find food and things like that. And they actually were just given food, right? They had everything they need. So it's kind of like these spoiled mice. And what happened was that the men weren't going off and they weren't finding food. So they didn't really have a role and they were just enjoying the pleasures of having food around them. Like everything's catered for, kind of like, some people in our world. What happened eventually is the mice's testosterone level would drop and the women were just not interested in mating with them, right? Because they couldn't sense those hormones. They just lost interest. There was no interest because they weren't doing male mice things. Those hormones weren't being activated. And what happened was the females lost interest and the male mice, just mated amongst themselves, right? Because they were so inclined to pleasure, right? So a woman's attraction reduces towards you when you are inclined to pleasure, when you're sharing your feelings too much, right? When you're onto your feminine side, you're her girlfriend, you're her therapist.
Wow.
You're her sister, or you're
Oh my gosh. And that I don't know if you guys have Yellowstone over there, the TV show over there, Sasha, but we have this kind of Western show, and I've brought it up several times on the show.
What
Will, your
happened?
camera's pointed down
I'm
at your
sorry,
crotch, man.
Oh boy, this is great. Hello, what's going on here? Oh Jesus Christ! Anyway,
At least you're wearing pants.
I know.
That could have been way more embarrassing.
I am wearing pants.
So
Anyway.
anyhow, while Will is unfucking the camera over there, we have this show called Yellowstone, and there's a very manly man in it. Actually, there's several, but my wife is very much attracted to this very manly man who never shares his feelings except when it's in a very manly way, and then he's out there defending and protecting and providing, and it's just like, I think every man in America wants to be this guy. And for those listening, I'm talking about Rip in Yellowstone, and you know who I'm talking about. So anyway, that is just a side note. So you say that you fix yourself and the relationship shifts. For our listeners, if they were to listen to 5 minutes of this episode only, maybe could you go through what the first 3 areas a man should start working on in himself right away?
Yeah, and it's not fix yourself. We're not broken. It's just bring yourself into balance, right? And I haven't watched Yellowstone, but look, it's every romance novel. I recommend men read romance novels. It's the same plot all the time. And so it's not that a woman wants you to be unemotional. No, she wants to feel your emotional energy. She wants to feel your feelings. But she doesn't want them to be offloaded onto her. That's it. So a man who's numb, who's unemotional, a woman's not going to be attracted to you. She wants that emotional energy. This is why the bad boy or, men in jail, they get married when they're in jail. They have emotional energy, right? So they're connected to their instincts, but they're usually not connected to their heart and it's not really going through their brain, right? Their mind. But their instincts are there, right? So it produces this, sexual charge. But all levels have to be on if you want to have the balance. Okay, so my premise and the work that I do, and it's based on working in men's health in the medical space with men's specialist doctors, psychologists, and researchers. And I was coaching men on the stress aspect of their health and their healing. What I discovered was with all these professionals, that a man is a natural leader in his relationship biologically on a nervous system level. So when he reduces the fight or flight signal in his nervous system, he's not signaling danger. A woman can connect. That's the first level, right? And a woman is always following you, even if it doesn't look like it. So if you don't trust yourself, she doesn't trust you. She's going to test you. If you usually have some unhealthy habits, she's going to have some unhealthy habits. And just working with hundreds of men, what I noticed as the man shifts, as he transforms, okay, he stops drinking, he stops his unhealthy habits, porn. The wife stops overspending, or she stops her drinking habit. She transforms because she's always following you. She is hormonally linked to you, and she's following your signals. That's how we're biologically designed. Maybe in another 100 years will be different, but we're still living off the legacy system of the hunter-gatherers biologically. She follows you, and you will notice that. She's essentially your mirror. That's the way it's designed, so you can see if you're on your mission, on your path, right? She's only designed to give you physical intimacy as a reward. So if you're not getting that, then you gotta, you can't speak to her like a man logically. Look, honey, I need more physically. It's not gonna work. She's not logical.
I've tried that.
Yeah.
It does
Well,
not work.
okay. Well, this brings up a question for you. So what does a man need? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sasha. I'm gonna cut you off.
We're programmed like this because it's
Right.
for our evolution, for our survival, for our expansion, right?
Mhm.
And we're evolving now at a big level as a
Yeah.
species.
So what's the golden recipe for a man to get laid more often in his relationship? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if it's reward, right, then there's a game here that we could play in order to get the reward, right? I mean, I know I'm being, but anyway,
Must
that'd
be
be fun.
overcoming your fears. And the biggest fears for you will be in your emotional life. And this is when you provide a woman with a corrective, a directive, when you lead her, when you lead from love and connection, that's where your fears are going to come up, right? That fear of rejection from the feminine is a man's greatest fear when it comes to his emotions. So when you overcome that, when you're not afraid of her, when you don't need her, that's when you're going to get your reward. And you're in your mission and your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told my wife not too long ago that I don't need her, that I just want her. And it initially I could see that it hurt her feelings, but then when she really thought about it, she's like, "Oh, actually, I like that. You don't need me. You want
Come
me."
over here, John.
I was like, "Yeah,
just kidding.
yeah, basically." So,
This wants to a woman. So she at first she needs to feel a little bit of uncomfort. So a man is designed to push a woman's he wants her boundaries pushed, right? So she is with a man to push her boundaries. That's what men do in when they're natural, right? And it feels uncomfortable for her. It's actually getting her into her fears. So her feeling a little bit afraid. Oh, what's next? Right? Because women are more geared for safety. That's going to create a bit of that tension. It's going to rise some energy in her, and then it's going to feel exciting, and then it's going to feel safe, right? That's the emotional process you want to take her through. If there's not enough tension, if you're always trying to please her, she is going to be creating the drama. So that demanding, nagging wife, it's because you're not stepping up. You're not creating the tension, so she's going to create it.
yeah, and I just want to put out a safety clause for myself. My wife is not nagging.
Yeah.
So if my wife listens to this episode, sweetheart, I love you, but I will be correcting you if you disrespect me, damn it.
Without the damn it.
Without the damn it. Without the damn it.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, emotional charge, but that was great. And she will love that. She's getting excited. She's not even watching this now. Something's tingling in her. She's like, what?
This is
Oh, gosh,
been
this is fun.
awesome.
It's simple,
Well,
right? It's
yeah.
simple, but the puzzle pieces have been moved around, right? The ingredients has been moved around, and instead of making a cake, we're making like some mushy chaos, right?
Yeah, I feel we hit almost everything we wanted to talk about, John. And one thing I want to ask is like, so women test, and we've kind of touched on it in many different ways, but why do women keep testing, and what do you do when they do test, and then or stop them or from, what does all this look like? Or again, give us some examples of testing too would be helpful, I think, for our listeners.
Yeah, a woman is going to test you until the day you die. It's in her biology. It's unconscious. It's likely it's because she needs to see if her young are safe, if you're safe. So she is essentially living with a man who is stronger, bigger, right? So there is a level of danger because he needs to protect her. So it needs to be a bit dangerous. but she's testing him to see if he's safe with her, to protect her, for the children. It's biology. Okay. She can't stop unless she becomes a doormat. And that's when your sexual charge towards her stops. So when a woman stops taking care of her needs, right, when she gives in to everything, she's not submitting, she's complying. There's a difference. Submitting is because she's naturally softening, right? She feels safe and comfortable to give in. Complying is when it's against her own heart, her own fears. So she will always test you because you need to be strong. You need to be on your mission. That's her role. So all you can do to pass the tests, it's not really passing, is you can't be afraid of her. You need to provide the correction. Don't disrespect me. Don't tell me what to do, but I care about your feelings. What are you feeling? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling afraid? What are you feeling? You don't argue with her. You're not afraid of her. You're the boss. She's a
You
secretary.
almost like draw her out, right? Draw her out of,
What is she
away from
feeling?
the test into the feminine,
Yes.
which is the more of the emotional life, and
Yes.
there you are, just holding space. You must know The Way of Superior Man by David Data. You know his book.
Everybody tells me that I haven't read it yet.
Oh
I
fuck,
do
it's
it
so
very much
good.
so, right?
And he has one thing that I really appreciate, that he talks about the dichotomy between like the masculine and feminine. He's like, the woman is like the ocean or the river or this large body of water that has like, could be very calm and placid at times, but very like turbulent, this and that. And the men are the moat, the dam, the boundary, the wall that holds the feminine energy, that holds the feminine emotion, or the sea of emotions that they
Yeah.
are, which
I mean, have you
is,
seen girlfriends talking to each other or organizing a trip or even just a dinner? It's chaos. It's chaos, right? And they're in that feminine. It is chaos. And that's what's needed, the boundaries, the leadership, the strength, so that they can, have controlled chaos, right? That's feminine energy. It's chaos.
wow.
Yeah, another book. Not to turn this into an assignment, a lot of assignments for you there, Sasha. But we recently read this book called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
Okay, you know this one by Robert Glover.
That are always, brought up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. We actually had Dr. Glover on our show actually at the beginning of the season,
Yeah,
back in
he
January.
was great.
Fantastic. And I've read the book twice now, and I think it was a game changer in my relationship as well.
Oh, wonderful.
But anyway, Sasha, what have we not covered that you would like our audience to hear to kind of close up the episode?
I guess I really want men to know that they have great power to create change in their relationships. I mean, saving your marriage in 90 days is not a gimmick. It happens. It's decades of the same thing, and it can happen very quickly when you just understand and you have the knowledge. It's like if you had a plumbing issue, you're not a plumber, you're going to call a plumber. You'll call an accountant. You'll call a technical guy. Why are you not calling anyone in your relationship? You don't know. You've never been taught. It's a completely different language. Why don't you get the information? Because once you have the information, you can fix the problem quite quickly, right? You have the power, and that means you have the responsibility.
All right. Wonderful way to end there. And
Yeah.
I'll just throw one more thing out to you, Sasha, for our audience, men or women, whoever wants to reach out to you, but perhaps they want coaching for themselves or for their spouse or their partner. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. I highly recommend you get my free intimacy guide. You watch my free masterclass. I put out a lot of content. That will give you the foundation. And then if you want, you can book a one-to-one session with me and we can start from there. Yeah. It's mind_heart method, or just head to my website, mindmethod.com.
Great.
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Sasha, this has been fantastic. Will, sorry, it sounded like you were about to say something.
No, I was going to say the same thing. But John, yeah, you say what you say. If you're going to say, and then I'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this has been fascinating. And I'm glad that you kind of distinguished at the end there between what was it, submitting and complying. Yes. Because I think when at the beginning, at the beginning, when you said something about, women are supposed to submit, in my mind, I think I went to comply, and having the difference spelled out there for me was very helpful, and will hopefully be helpful for the audience. But yeah, fantastic
That's
information here.
because there's a lot of talk about it. It's not that a woman is supposed to submit. Her biology is naturally designed to submit. But a man shouldn't, it's not like the 1950s where just because you were born a biological man, she needs to do that. She's lying to you. It's like the fake orgasm, right? You don't want that. You gotta be leading in a way which she naturally submits. That's the difference,
Okay,
right?
that's even more. We may have to take those snippets at the very beginning of the show, Will, just to
Yeah.
keep our audience clear on those lines. I like that. So thank you for
Yeah.
even further clarifying.
Maybe that'll
So-
be our opener.
Yeah, Will, I'll turn it over to you, my
No,
friend.
Sasha, thank you for clarifying so much about this incredible dynamic dance between the masculine and the feminine, and helping our community. We have a lot of great men out there. I know probably most of them are in some sort of relationship, or now they're realizing how they failed in the relationship that they lost. This has just been really great information. I know we're leaving, but like I'm really fascinated. Is it even possible, considering what we're talking about, like the feminine energy is chaos, if like we don't have like a world that that isn't like a man's world, you know what I mean? Like, not in the way that we typically think of a man's world, but it's like we need each other, but we need that leadership for men in order to create this society. I don't know. I'm really fascinated by this whole conversation. So that's another conversation. But I just want to say thank you as well. What's that?
We definitely need men.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Will, the really outspoken guy about men and how important they are in society. I'm forgetting his name right now.
Oh, Andrew Tate?
No, no.
Like
Anyhow,
a good man?
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, because we'll end up just running another 15 minutes on the show. But yes, we appreciate your saying that we need men, because we need men and women, right? We can't have society without them. So appreciate this. This has been very educational, mind-opening, mind-blowing for that matter. So Sasha, we're going to wrap it up with a meditation, or not a meditation, but another one breath practice or so. And men who don't meditate, they're dangerous. You heard her say it. So if you're a dangerous man out there who's not meditating, check out our mentalkingmindfulness.com website and maybe sign up for that meditation course. So that said, let's just do a one breath grounding practice to close up, and we'll be done. So whatever feels safe for you. If you feel safe closing your eyes, I invite you to do so. Otherwise, just soften your eyelids, soften your gaze. And let's just bring our attention to our breath to start, just noticing the physical aspects of your breath. And then emptying out, nice and slow, nice and easy, bringing your navel to your spine, holding empty, and then one nice, long, slow, deep breath in, holding at the top, and letting it go, letting it go. Letting it go. Relax, relax, relax. And awesome. All right. Open your eyes back up and let's wrap it up. Sasha, again, fantastic episode. Thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this with your family, your friends, whoever you think may get something out of it. And we'd love to hear what you thought of this episode. We'll share it on YouTube under the Valor Media Network, and it's going to also be out there clearly on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms. We'd love to hear from you, so let us know. All right, until next time, take care, everyone. Peace.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.